First time staying at my boyfriend's place. In the middle of the night, his ex-girlfriend suddenly barged into the bedroom. I could clearly sense his momentary shock. The room fell into a deep silence. "Mike," she said, her voice hoarse and tearful. But he acted as if nothing had happened, his tone calm as ever. "Get out." Bang. The door slammed shut as expected, the sound echoing through the silent night. I heard my own voice, shaky, asking, "How did she know the code to your door lock? Mike paused for a moment, then continued kissing me, his voice barely audible. "I forgot to change it after we broke up. Really?" I instinctively turned my face slightly, trying to avoid his touch. He froze for a moment, then gently turned my face back, his thumb rubbing my skin as he slowly promised, "Really?" Looking into his eyes, which were as black as night and devoid of any lustful desire, I suddenly found myself speechless. In a daze, I thought of Lily, his ex-girlfriend who had just left. This afternoon she had intentionally sent me harassing messages. "He's just something I don't want anymore. You believe it or not, if I snap my fingers he'll come back to me." At the time, Mike had been sitting right next to me, and when he saw the message, he remained unfazed, as if it had nothing to do with him. It was only me who was silently fuming. Not because I feared Mike would really go back to her. I wouldn't let such baseless provocation make me jealous or question my relationship with him. It was just that I felt sorry for him, and hurt. Before I could say anything more, Mike suddenly leaned in and kissed me, his voice husky and vague, with an irresistible charm in it. "Darling, stay with me tonight." Mike had always been distant, and we rarely kissed. This was the first time he had called me darling, in such an affectionate tone. The first time he asked me to stay intimately. I didn't refuse. But unexpectedly, Lily walked in on us. Her face went pale, almost pitiful. But Mike didn't even glance at her. Was it because he didn't dare to look? Or because he couldn't bear to? Suddenly, a loud rumbling sound broke my thoughts, and a flash of lightning passed through the window, casting a bright light on Mike's pale face. "It's raining," I said absently. Mike suddenly froze and quickly looked out the window. His indifferent eyes flickered slightly, as though lost in thought. I stared at him blankly. After all this time together, no matter how well he hid it, I could always see through the emotion in his eyes. He was worried. Worried about Lily, who might be caught in the rain outside. And he was regretting being with me tonight. The chill spreading from my chest quickly engulfed my whole body. My fingertips trembled, and I suddenly pushed him away. Mike froze, pulling his gaze back to me. I saw my own disheveled reflection in his eyes and lowered my face. "You should go out now. I need to change." He revealed a complex expression but said nothing, quietly leaving the room. As I finished getting ready and stepped out of the bedroom, I saw Mike holding an umbrella in one hand, his phone pressed to his ear as he dialed. He was already near the door. With each repeated, "The number you have dialed is unavailable" tone, his anxiety and impatience became more apparent. I stared, my feet suddenly tripping over something, and my knee slammed painfully into the table corner. I didn't want Mike to notice, so I stifled the pain and quickly sat on the nearby couch. Hearing the noise, Mike hesitated for a moment before turning around. Upon seeing me, his lips pressed together tightly. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "The rain's too heavy. She wasn't in a good state when she left. I can't let her be out there." The sharp pain in my knee shot up, and I bit my lip, the words nearly spilling out in a desperate plea. "Please, don't go." "I'm sorry, Luna." There wasn't a hint of hesitation in his voice. At that moment, everything in my head seemed to snap. The pride I had been holding on to shattered. I struggled to stand, limping as I made my way over. Tears blurred my vision instantly. "Mike, you should apologize." I took a deep breath, wiping away the tears hastily with the back of my hand. "If you've never let her go, why are you still with me? Are you just settling for me? Or am I just a distraction in your dry spell?" By the time I said distraction, my voice had cracked, but I stubbornly looked up at him, hoping to get an answer that I already knew, but my body swayed and I almost collapsed. Mike reacted quickly and caught my waist. "What happened to your leg?" I looked at him without saying anything. His gaze deepened, and without a word, he picked me up in his arms and placed me on the sofa. After getting the first aid kit, he gently lifted my pant leg, handling me with such care that I was momentarily stunned. My right knee was swollen and there was a sizable scrape. The blood trailed down my calf in a vivid red line, making it look worse than I had expected. Mike's brow furrowed even more, and he took out the antiseptic, his voice hoarse, "Endure it." The next second, my knee suddenly felt cold, and the pain made me clutch his arm tightly, my nails digging into his flesh. He remained silent, letting me hold on to him, enduring the pain with me. Finally, after the disinfectant was done, Mike pulled out a tube of ointment, but it was clearly almost empty. "I'll go buy some more," he said, standing up. I suddenly grabbed his arm, my eyes beginning to redden. He froze for a moment, his long lashes lowering, then gazed at me gently. "The pharmacy is downstairs. It'll take no more than 10 minutes. I'll be right back." 3 minutes. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. When I checked my phone again, I realized I had been waiting for nearly 3 hours. My knee had long since lost feeling from the pain. My throat suddenly became painfully dry, and the cup of water was just within reach. I moved my legs slowly, stiffly, trying to get up. What seemed like a simple action took nearly 3 minutes. Finally, I managed to pick up the cup, drinking deeply, only to realize the hot water Mike had prepared earlier had already gone cold. I told myself, just wait a little longer. Just a little longer. Another hour passed. I started calling Mike and sending him messages, but none were answered, not even a single reply. Gradually, my gaze turned cold and lifeless. I didn't know how long it had been, but I received a harassing message from Lily. There were 2 texts and a photo of Mike in a hotel kitchen making ginger tea. In the photo, Mike's hair and clothes were drenched. He must have been caught in the rain, even though he had brought an umbrella. Despite looking disheveled, the expression on his face was calm and relaxed, as if nothing was wrong. "He said he hasn't touched you before ... Ha, that was when we first got together ... When Mike finally returned, it was already 3 in the morning. The wall lamp by the door suddenly turned on with a soft click, casting a dim yellow light that fell on his pale, indifferent face. "Why aren't you asleep yet?" He seemed slightly surprised to see me sitting on the couch. I paused, gripping my phone tightly, and quietly watched him. "I went to get us cheesecake. It'll be our breakfast tomorrow." He casually placed the box in the fridge, as though nothing had happened. "You know, that shop only opens late at night. It's hard to get in line." His tone was as indifferent as ever, as though everything was normal. Seeing that I didn't respond, Mike's brow furrowed slightly, and he slowly walked over to the couch. "What's wrong?" He stared at me for a while before carefully lifting my leg and placing it on his lap, lowering his head to check. "Does your knee still hurt?" From this angle, I could see the black strands of his hair brushing against his neck, smooth and shiny, as if freshly washed and blow-dried. Suddenly, Lily's words from earlier echoed in my mind, loud and obnoxious, ringing in my ears like an explosion. The humiliation, the anger, the complete destruction of all my defenses. I held back a shiver, pushing my leg off of his lap, deliberately avoiding his intimate gesture. Mike froze for a moment. "It's too late today. My knee hurts. I'll just stay on your couch for the night. I'll transfer you the money for the room tomorrow." Mike's gaze turned icy and his face darkened as he looked at me. "Luna, what exactly are you making a scene about?" "A scene?" I repeated, lifting my head to look at him. "Mike, where did you go tonight?" Mike's eyelashes fluttered, but he didn't meet my eyes. "I went to get you medicine. Then I queued for the cake." "So, where's the medicine?" Mike said nothing. "I've called you 58 times tonight, and sent you 105 messages. You poured me a glass of hot water before you left, saying it would cool in 10 minutes and I could drink it when you got back. I don't know if she's alright, but my foot really hurts." The room was dimly lit. Mike's face showed almost no emotion. The only thing I could see was his fingers curling slightly, rubbing the seam of his shirt. This meant he was annoyed, wanting to smoke. I blinked, forcing myself to suppress the soreness in my eyes, staring at his cold face, biting my lip until I tasted the metallic tang of blood, and with great difficulty, I finally spoke. "Mike, let's break up." In almost an instant, Mike grabbed my hand and responded in a deep voice. "I don't agree." "I can explain," he said. The medicine fell into a ditch on the way to get the cake, and my phone broke, so I couldn't receive any messages. The air was thick with silence. I stared at him. Mike furrowed his brow tightly, and roughly pulled off a button on his shirt, taking out a cigarette and lighting it. I had advised him many times to quit smoking, but he never listened. Of course, why would he care about what I say? The scent of the menthol cigarette lingered, and only when it disappeared did I hear Mike's hoarse voice. "I'm sorry. If you're going to apologize to her for abandoning me, I won't accept it," I said softly. Mike froze for a moment. This was the first time I saw defeat in his expression. "She's still my college classmate." "Just a college classmate?" I tried to steady my emotions, speaking in a calm tone. Mike was silent for a while before he said, "A few days ago, her parents called me. She bought a plane ticket and came here alone. If anything happens to her, I don't know how I'll explain it to her family. Luna, I've never thought of getting back with her." "You..." Before he could finish, I showed him the harassing messages and the photo from Lily. He was taken aback. "You went to find her? Why were your clothes and hair wet? What happened between you two? If you never thought of getting back together with her, why did you tell her you haven't touched me?" I tried my best to hold back my emotions, but my voice still carried a hint of a hoarse, tearful tone. "Mike, what do you really think of me?" Looking at his pale, silent face, which seemed to have no rebuttal, I suddenly wanted to laugh. In that moment, many details that I had purposely ignored became clear. It was Mike who pursued me first. He had transferred to the headquarters 2 years ago, and we had worked together on several projects. We clicked surprisingly well. We often stayed up late working, and our relationship had subtly changed. So when he initiated it, I didn't hesitate, quickly agreeing. In the year we were together, despite Mike's cold nature, he treated me well and never intentionally hid his past. I knew he had a 5-year-long ex-girlfriend, their first love, and they broke up a year after graduation. It was impossible to say I didn't mind, but if I minded, it would feel like I was being unreasonable. I had asked him about the breakup, and Mike's answer had been simple and calm. "We weren't right for each other." At the time, he said, "Luna, I think we're quite right for each other." Honestly, he was very sincere when he said it. But in that instant, my heart sank. The word right should have been a positive thing for two people in love, but it made me feel a sense of unexplained irritation. Was he pursuing me because he liked me, or because he thought I was right for him? Perhaps sensing my emotional shift, Mike didn't say much. He just sighed softly, then kissed me, helplessly saying, "Luna, don't think too much." At that moment, we were breathing heavily. I naturally looped my arms around his neck, but Mike suddenly pushed me away, lowered his gaze, and seemed lost in thought. After a long silence, he awkwardly reached up to ruffle my hair, saying, "Luna, we still have a long time ahead of us." At that time, I didn't think much of it. I understood he was being respectful of me, wanting to save the best for after we were engaged. Then Lily appeared. Everything had been a warning sign, but I loved him too much. Love helped me filter these things out, making me believe he liked me as well. Or perhaps he didn't even love me. Maybe it was just because I was right for him. At this moment, I realized how vulnerable I felt, like being stripped bare. This humiliation was given by Mike's ex-girlfriend, yet it was Mike who had handed her the knife, trying to please her. I couldn't even imagine what Mike was like when he was with Lily. Did he also treat her with the same indifference and pride? Probably it was different. I calmly texted my best friend, telling her that Mike and I had broken up, asking if she had time to pick me up tomorrow. She seemed surprised but didn't ask any further, sending a hug emoji. She said, "I'll come to get you." Just as I hung up, my body was suddenly lifted off the ground, and Mike had carried me. I froze for a moment, and my face immediately turned cold. "You want..." But Mike interrupted confidently, "Your knee is injured. The couch is too small. You should sleep in the bedroom." I pursed my lips and looked at him suspiciously. Mike's expression changed for a moment but quickly concealed it. "I'll sleep on the couch tonight. I won't do anything to you." I froze for a moment. Then I suddenly realized how ridiculous my reaction was. Mike never liked me. The closeness between us this time was just because of the provoking message from Lily, and he was probably just trying to upset her. My suspicion felt meaningless. "Put me down. I can walk on my own, thank you." I looked him in the eye, speaking calmly, though my voice betrayed no emotion. When our gazes met, I thought I saw a flash of hurt in his eyes. I must have been mistaken. Mike didn't say anything more, silently putting me down. I didn't look at him again and limped toward the bedroom. Just as I closed the door, I heard Mike's slightly hoarse voice. "Luna." I paused. Mike was silent for a moment before taking out a small box from his pocket and opening it. Inside was a delicate women's ring. Lily threw it into the ditch. The rain was heavy, and there were no streetlights. My phone broke, and I searched for it for a long time. I got soaked. I didn't want you to think too much, so I went to the hotel and dried my clothes. Mike paused, his breath heavier. "She kept asking me if I was going to propose to you, asking why I was touching you. Everything was so chaotic back then, I'm not even sure what I answered." He tightly pressed his lips together, his voice hoarse, but I could clearly hear the faintest trace of regret. "Lily's personality is completely different from yours. Back in school, she was willful, never stopping until she overturned everyone's world." Back in school? That word made my heart curl a little. It was a world I would never touch, a past that belonged only to them. I've already deleted her WeChat and blocked her number. Tomorrow, I'll explain everything to her parents. After this, don't contact me about her anymore. I looked up at him, hearing him promise, word by word, "Luna, it's over with her." Perhaps it was because I had waited too long without a response. Mike's eyelashes trembled slightly, and his lips turned pale. He softly said, "Get some rest." I didn't say anything, quietly watching him close the door. Lying in bed, I shut my eyes but couldn't sleep. My mind was a mess. After hearing those words and seeing that ring, it was impossible not to feel touched. Yet, two images kept swirling in my mind. One was when Mike held my hand while driving me home, his indifferent gaze softening as he seriously asked me if I wanted to be in a relationship with him. The other was the image of Mike abandoning me without hesitation to find Lily. Can I really move on? Even if they are over, can I move on? The next morning, I woke up and walked out of the bedroom. On the table, I saw a tube of ointment lying quietly. The late ointment. I lowered my eyes, ignoring the slightly complicated look in Mike's eyes, and walked straight toward the door. The moment my hand touched the door handle, the door suddenly opened. Lily's bright and bold face appeared before my eyes. But Lily wasn't alone. She was with a man. She clung to the man's arm, coquettishly sweet, her smile full of charm. The two of them looked incredibly intimate. The man's gaze swept between me and Mike, and slowly, a smile curled up at the corner of his lips. "Hello, I'm Evans, Lily's new boyfriend." Lily, even more confidently, took his hand, their fingers interlocking. I instinctively looked at Mike. He calmly watched them, his expression completely unchanged, with no trace of displeasure. "What are you here for?" I asked. Lily put on an innocent smile. "You sent me a message last night, telling me not to come disturb you. I'm usually very obedient, so I brought my new boyfriend to say goodbye to you in person." Seeing Mike remain silent, Lily's smile deepened. She casually led the man into the living room and sat down on the couch. "Won't you come and sit?" she teased. Lily glanced at the unopened ointment on the table, then winked at me. "Your foot is still injured, right? Since last night, you haven't applied any medicine." "Tisk, that's really unfortunate. Standing like this won't help your wound heal, you know?" My gaze immediately darkened. I turned to leave but was stopped. "I'm leaving now." "What? Can't handle it." The last few words Lily spoke slowly, her tone cold and playful. I froze for a moment, clenching my fist. The disgust and anger inside me nearly overwhelmed my rationality. Just as I was about to speak, my waist was suddenly grabbed. Mike was staring at Lily, his voice steady and calm. "Compared to you, she will always be the winner." Lily's face turned slightly pale, her defiant eyes locked on him. As the two stared at each other, I silently shook off his arm from around my waist. Mike froze for a second. On the table, there were freshly cut oranges. Lily, as if avoiding something, lowered her head, picked up a slice, and took a small bite. Then she lifted her head, her face returning to its usual glamorous brightness. "Actually, I don't like oranges. I prefer grapes. But since grapes aren't here, what can I do? I'll just have to make do, right, Mike?" Lily lifted her chin, looking at Mike, her smile playful and carefree, but with an underlying implication. People's tastes can change. She's never someone who would just make do. Mike slowly took my hand. His voice was light, but carried a note of seriousness. Hearing this, I paused for a moment, unable to pull my hand away. Lily seemed to have lost her patience completely. She wasn't the kind of person who could hide her emotions. Now, her face was darker than ever. "Mike, I'll ask you one last time. Between her and me, who will you choose?" Mike paused, lowering his eyes, and gave me a soft look. Unspoken. My heart fluttered slightly. Lily's eyes were filled with anger and obsession, almost spilling over. She wiped her tears away forcefully, and with a tone filled with despair, she said to Mike, "Mike, remember, I'm not the only one who can love you." After speaking, she turned her head and kissed the man next to her. It wasn't really a kiss. It was more of a quick brush of lips, then she quickly pulled away from him. Seeing that Mike's expression didn't change, cold and indifferent, Lily's tears fell in big drops. She bit her lip and ran out. I stood there in a daze. In that moment, I felt the sharp pain in my fingertips, the pressure coming from Mike's grip. It was like someone suddenly gripped me too tightly. Maybe even Mike himself didn't realize he was losing control. When I came back to my senses, Mike was already gone. I don't know what kind of emotions I had as I walked out, or how I ended up at the staircase. Then I saw Mike pinning Lily against the wall, his hand gripping the back of her head, kissing her fiercely, viciously. I had never seen him like this before. It was as if he was afraid she might escape, holding her tightly with her legs pressed against his waist, losing all his usual indifference and restraint. It seemed that he noticed something. As Mike's kiss slowly moved downward, Lily, who had her eyes closed, suddenly opened them and looked at me. Then she flashed a provocative, victorious smile at me. I stood there in a daze, feeling like something was choking my throat. The wind howling in my ears gradually faded away. Silence. She had indeed won, and it seemed like she had never lost. It all started that day when Lily first appeared at the company's entrance and stopped Mike. At that time, I took her for just another girl trying to flirt. I clung to Mike's arm, claiming my territory. "Sorry, he has a girlfriend." Lily had looked at me strangely then. It was the same look she gave me now. Arrogant, challenging, full of disdain. That day, Mike ignored her persistence, wrapping his arm around me and walking out of the company. He drove me home, discussing the meeting tomorrow along the way. It was calm, as though Lily's appearance had no effect on him. But it seemed he had forgotten we were supposed to watch a movie. We had even planned to go see a movie and then visit my parents afterward. It turned out, from the very beginning, the outcome had already been decided. I heard faint footsteps and a playful TSK, which immediately snapped me out of my thoughts. I didn't turn around, but I knew it was Evans, Lily's so-called new boyfriend. "It's pretty boring to watch alone. Why didn't you invite me?" His casual tone was mixed with a hint of mockery. In my line of sight, Mike's back suddenly tensed, almost immediately releasing Lily. He stood frozen in place. After a long pause, his fingers moved slightly, and he slowly, stiffly turned his head. Our eyes met. I quietly watched his face slowly turn pale, watched the anxiety and helplessness spilling out of his eyes. So calm, as if he had lost all his emotions. The human heart is a strange thing. Before all this, I really liked him. But now, looking at this person, I couldn't even bring myself to recall the past. Even the affection I once gave him now made me feel disgusted. Mike seemed to snap back to his senses. He walked a few steps toward me, as if wanting to touch my hand. "First, clean the lipstick off your lips." I coldly avoided him. Mike stood there, frozen. His face turned whiter and whiter, his lips trembled. Suddenly, a long hand stretched out in front of him, holding a crumpled tissue with a red stain on it. "If you don't mind that it's the one I just used, you can borrow it," Evans said. I looked up and found it was Evans. Mike naturally didn't take it. Evans raised an eyebrow, then casually smiled. "Silly boy, you don't mind kissing the woman I kissed just now, but you mind this tissue?" Both Mike and Lily's faces changed color. I could actually hear a faint, almost unnoticeable anger in Evans' tone. It was probably because of Lily. After all, we were both victims in this situation, but Mike and I had already broken up last night, and he had witnessed his girlfriend cheating. I glanced at him sympathetically. Maybe noticing my gaze, Evans seemed to freeze for a moment. My phone buzzed with a message from my best friend, saying she would be here in about 10 minutes. I replied, "I'm downstairs waiting for you." Just as I was about to turn around, I heard Mike's hoarse voice. "Luna?" His voice was very soft, almost pleading. But what was he begging for? "Mike." Lily's hand landed on his shoulder, clearly irritated. "Why are you speaking to her like that? Mike almost reflexively shrugged off her hand, then glanced at me carefully. Lily froze. Realizing what had happened, her eyes turned red and her voice became shrill. Mike! You're the one who chased me. You kissed me. Now what are you doing showing this kind of attitude to her? Mike's face was as pale as death, and he stood there, staring blankly at me. I didn't look at him again, and without hesitation I headed for the elevator. As the elevator doors were about to close, I caught a glimpse of Evan's figure through the gap. He gestured for me to wait. I thought for a moment, then pressed the elevator button to open the doors again. After Evans entered, the atmosphere in the elevator grew heavy with silence. In the reflection on the elevator walls, I saw him frown as if thinking about how to start the conversation. Is there something you want to say? I asked. After a long while, Evans finally spoke. Actually, it's nothing much. I just wanted to apologize. Apologize? One of my friends asked me to help. His friend has been harassed by her ex-boyfriend, and his current girlfriend has been sending threatening messages. He wanted me to pretend to be her boyfriend for a day. I understood. That friend was Lily. I was going to refuse at first, but he kept saying I was handsome. I froze. From my angle, I could see Evans lowering his lashes. His red lips were lightly pressed together, and the sharp lines of his jaw stood out clearly. He was really quite good looking. But it's obvious that Lily is the one harassing you guys, he continued. I'm sorry. If it weren't for me, your boyfriend. I interrupted him. Even without you, Mike, and I would have broken up. He paused, staring at me for a while before suddenly chuckling. I didn't expect helping out would get me dirty. What bad luck. We exited the elevator, walking toward the apartment entrance. My best friend hadn't arrived yet, so I sat on a bench and stretched my leg carefully. You're interesting, Evan said. Your knee's all swollen, but you haven't complained once on the way here. I paused for a moment, wanting to check if my best friend's car had arrived. I turned my head, rubbing my eyes against the glaring light. Suddenly, a shadow fell over me, and someone sat beside me. It was Evans. He sat at a distance, not too close but not far either. Hey, don't be too sad, he said. I think your ex-boyfriend cares about you more than you think. The way he acted just now, he almost wanted to kneel down for you. I froze, realizing that my gesture of rubbing my eyes had made him misunderstand. Without explaining, I spoke calmly. He doesn't like me. He's with me because he thinks I'm suitable. Suitable? Evans looked at me, clearly puzzled. I didn't want to elaborate, just nodded casually, lowering my head to continue playing on my phone, hoping to end the topic. Thinking he was trying to be kind, I looked up and gave him an explanation. What I mean is he wants to be with Lily, but marry me. Evans widened his eyes slightly and muttered, Damn. I was surprised by his reaction. He lowered his head, seemingly deep in thought, and just as I was about to speak, I heard his low voice. A real love doesn't give up just because something isn't perfect. Even if it's not perfect, you try to make it work and get better together. Those who quit halfway, they just didn't love enough. He meant that Mike didn't love Lily enough? Evans met my surprised gaze and said seriously, I've always believed that the moment you decide to be with someone, whether because of compatibility or love, it's out of sincerity and determination. I froze. So, never doubt the love you gave in the past. You weren't wrong. You were chosen with certainty. I turned my face slightly, my nose starting to feel uncontrollably teary. You're good at comforting people. He propped his head on his hand. It's okay. I bit my lip, about to thank him, when he suddenly leaned in closer. I jumped, quickly pushing him away. Don't move. Your ex is watching. In my peripheral vision, Mike stood at the apartment door, his expression unreadable. Evans stopped at a safe distance, winked at me, and smirked. The clueless dog. Man, this'll drive him crazy. After a while, I glanced in that direction, speaking calmly. He's gone. Evans naturally stepped back and looked at his phone, his tone a little distant. My car's here. I have to go. I softly murmured, and smiled at him. I wish you safe travels. He paused for a moment, then smiled back. I wish you. Then, his smile grew brighter. Forget it, I wish you wealth instead. Soon after Evans left, my best friend arrived. As soon as I saw her familiar face, my eyes instantly welled up. I hadn't cried since I left Mike's house, but now, the tears just wouldn't stop. My knee hurts. I looked at her helplessly. she sighed, coming over to support me. I bought some medicine on the way. I'll help you apply it in the car. I took sick leave from work and stayed at my best friend's place for a whole week. My knee had almost healed by then. Mike sent me a message one day. You and Evans? I replied, we've already broken up. There was a long silence on Mike's side. Then he said, Luna, you can't love another man. I immediately blocked all his contact details. Then Mike started frequently showing up near my best friend's place. Every time I saw my best friend come back holding back her anger, I knew she had definitely bumped into Mike. I really don't get it. It's him who's still lingering with his ex, but he still has the audacity to ask if you've fallen for someone else? It's him who let go first, but now he's acting like he can't live without you. My best friend gritted her teeth and took a bite of some lettuce. As though she thought of something, she asked, but who's Evans? I continued eating without changing my expression. A kind-hearted stranger. I wasn't lying. Since that day, Evans and I hadn't contacted each other. We were supposed to be two parallel lines with no intersection, but after that brief, unintentional moment of crossing paths, we would never meet again. Our silent agreement was to go back to our separate worlds. My best friend nodded, clearly irritated. I really don't want to see his face again. I paused for a moment, put down my bowl, took a deep breath, and then looked at her, speaking clearly. Then call the police. She suddenly looked up at me, incredulous. What did you just say? I looked at her calmly. Aren't you a law student? If he's stalking and harassing you, can't you call the police? My best friend opened her mouth but couldn't speak. Neither Mike nor I had expected that our next meeting after breaking up would be at the police station, making statements. He was sitting there, his head lowered, his messy hair hanging down over his forehead. He probably hadn't cut it in a while. His long, slender hands were crossed on the table, slightly trembling. This gentleman has been showing up near my house every day, causing serious harassment. Mike slowly raised his head, his eyes locking with mine. I paused for a moment, but didn't look away. I continued, the surveillance footage and the residents in the neighborhood can testify. The corners of Mike's eyes were slightly red. After the statement, I stood up and glanced at Mike, who had remained silent the entire time. I spoke coldly. Mike, stop bothering me. With that, I turned to my still, shocked best friend. Let's go. As we neared the door, my best friend, who hadn't quite caught on yet, spoke. Now I believe it. You really don't love him anymore. Her voice wasn't loud, but everyone in the room could hear her. After that, Mike never appeared near my best friend's place again. He voluntarily requested to be transferred to a different department and moved to the office downstairs. My new colleague was a big guy, 2 years younger than me, named Bill. He had a fair face with red lips and white teeth, and whenever he saw me, he would shyly call out Luna. During every department meeting, Mike would quietly sit far from me, lowering his eyes, his long fingers absent-mindedly stroking the papers as he silently listened to everyone's reports. We hadn't exchanged a single word or even made eye contact during these days. I thought maybe he had finally given up. As spring came, the company organized a team-building trip to the mountains. Bill and I were responsible for buying some supplies, and when we were heading back, it suddenly started pouring rain. With no choice, we had to take shelter in a pavilion on the mountain and wait for the rain to stop. The rain was so heavy that we lost phone signal. Bill, standing beside me, confidently reassured, Luna, don't worry. The rain should stop soon. The rain lasted for almost 6 hours. By the time we safely returned, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. They then asked me if I had seen Mike because, as soon as it started raining, he went off on his own to search for us and still hadn't come back. I was a bit stunned when I returned to the tent, only to find my phone was missing perhaps. It had fallen somewhere along the way. When I asked Bill, he was just changing his clothes, his t-shirt pulled up to his shoulders, staring blankly at me. I quickly turned away. I just wanted to ask if you've seen my phone. Bill seemed to snap back to reality and quietly said, Oh, it's in the bag on the table. I found my phone in the bag and the signal had been restored. Hundreds of messages flooded in. The most eye-catching one was from an unfamiliar number. He had called me countless times, sent me countless texts. Luna, where are you? Luna, don't be scared. I'll come find you. Luna, it's all my fault. I know I shouldn't bother you again, but if you see my message, please don't be angry. Please reply to me. Luna, they said you might be in a pavilion. I've searched all the pavilions on the mountain. Where are you? Just as I was about to leave, something crossed my mind, and I took out a tube of ointment from my bag, handing it to Bill. You helped block the branch from hitting me earlier, and my arm got scratched. You should apply this. Bill hesitated, staring into my eyes. Luna, actually I have something to... Suddenly, the tent was flung open. I instinctively looked over. Mike stood there, soaked to the bone. His shirt was torn, and his body and face were covered in several cuts, seemingly from being scraped by something. The moment he saw me, the hand that hung by his side trembled uncontrollably, and his eyes began to shine. Before he could react, he found himself in a familiar embrace. Hot, wet breath brushed against my neck. Luna? My mind went blank. The intense repulsion and discomfort made every nerve in my brain scream, and my spine felt cold and shivery. Almost instantly, I used all my strength to push him away and slapped him hard across the face. Don't touch me. Mike staggered back several steps, then froze in place. He stood there, his eyes red, looking at me helplessly, sadly. A few minutes later, I had calmed down. I pulled Mike out of the tent and looked at him coldly. You didn't have to do this. Once the rain stopped, I would have gone back on my own. You're making me uncomfortable. Mike froze for a moment, his face turning even paler. Now that you're back, we can rest easy. It's late. You should go back and rest. What about you? Mike stared at me directly. I naturally tightened my grip on the ointment in my hand. I'm going back to help Bill with the ointment. Mike was momentarily stunned, looking somewhat helpless as his pale face displayed the bloodied cuts more clearly. Seeing him standing there, I reminded him. Mike, didn't I make myself clear at the police station? If you keep harassing me, should I report you again? Mike's breath hitched sharply. He stood there in silence for a long time, then slowly lifted his gaze to me. Luna, do you hate me that much? Yes, I hate you, I replied calmly. Mike's face grew even whiter. If saying that will stop you from bothering me, then I can tell you I hate you, and I never want to see you again. I watched him quietly. Mike, we're never going to be a thing. Mike let out a bitter smile, his voice hoarse. Do you think you and him have a chance? Without saying a word, he pulled out his phone and showed me 2 text messages. They were sent about 10 minutes ago. Do you know why Luna isn't replying to your messages? Want to take a guess at what we did for those 6 hours? I froze. Bill's face, which had seemed hesitant earlier, flashed in my mind. What was he trying to do? Is this true? Mike's gaze was intense as he stared at me, his breath becoming heavier. I deliberately didn't deny it. So what? Mike, you have no right to question my personal life. Mike's face drained of color and his lips tightly pressed together, turned completely pale. I looked at him one last time, then turned to leave, but he stopped me. Is it because of Lily? Before I could respond, Mike anxiously continued. Lily's parents came and took her away. She's been on psychiatric medication, and this time her relapse was severe. She even started self-harming. Her parents are taking her abroad for treatment. I stared at him in silence. If it weren't for her, we would have been getting married by now. Luna, she won't bother us anymore. As he spoke, the light in Mike's eyes quickly faded, and his voice became quieter. He probably realized how ridiculous his words sounded. I smiled slightly, not with sarcasm, but with a calmness that felt strange. The problems between Mike and I had never just been about Lily. I looked into his eyes, then asked him, for the first time after our breakup, with complete seriousness. Mike, did you ever love me? The darkness in his eyes deepened, churning violently as if he was suppressing something. In the beginning, I just felt comfortable being with you. Later, I started thinking about spending the rest of my life with you. He paused, then bitterly laughed. I used to think it was just about being suitable. How sad it must have been for you. His Adam's apple moved as he said, Luna, I love you. I still looked at him calmly. If you had ever told me that before. I didn't finish the sentence, but I could see the redness in Mike's eyes. I gazed at him steadily, without resentment, as if nothing had happened, just a gentle breeze passing by. Mike, right now, I don't love you anymore. Mike stood there in a daze, his body swaying as if he couldn't stay upright. Yeah, I know. His voice was rough, carrying a subtle sob. I looked at his profile hidden in the darkness. I watched his trembling shoulders and I spoke the last words to him. When you said in front of Lily that I wasn't someone to settle for, I almost forgave you. Unfortunately, it was just that, almost. Mike was transferred back to the Shanghai branch, supposedly at his own request. As for those 2 text messages, Bill explained to me that he had accidentally looked at my phone and thought that the number belonged to the person who had been harassing me and whom I had reported to the police. Bill decided to pretend to be my boyfriend to scare him off. Then, with complete sincerity, Bill confessed, "Luna, can I be your real boyfriend?" The young man looked at me seriously, his eyes shining with determination, leaving no trace of hesitation. But I didn't like his type. I smiled faintly. "You're a good guy." After I rejected him, Bill took a week off due to being heartbroken. However, when he found out that it would be unpaid leave since he had no vacation days left, he dutifully came back to work. Well, love can never be as good as earning money.